Hello everyone, Brandon here and welcome back to another episode at the Wellstead. And this is going to be a very special video for two reasons. Firstly, I want to wish Sir David Attenborough a very, very happy 100th birthday today, the 8th of May 2026. Sir David Attenborough is truly a living legend who needs no introduction, and he's been a massive inspiration for myself and everyone here at the Wellstead. And I just want to wish him an amazing 100th birthday, and hopefully we'll see him hosting our favourite wildlife documentaries for many, many years to come. And the second reason, the main reason for this video, is because it's also the first birthday of the Wellstead YouTube channel, the 1 year anniversary. The 8th of May last year is when I uploaded the first video of the Wellstead, right here next to this tree, introducing myself to you guys and you guys to the work that we're doing here in our ancient woodland. And so to commemorate this special day, I thought today's video would be about going back to the very, very first video that I ever shot here in our woodland, way back in August of 2024 when I initially wanted to start this channel. And at the time, the channel was going to be under the name of Project Eden. And I did one video, I shot two, I uploaded one and I took it down shortly after because for one, I wasn't being consistent with it. I kept forgetting to bring my camera and my microphone and whatnot down here. And also because I didn't quite have a vision and intention for the channel at the time. So then this time last year in May 2025 is when we restarted the YouTube channel under the name of The Wellstead, which is much more fitting for the vision that we have here. So in today's video, I thought we'd go back to that very first video that we shot way back in 2024 and I'd react to it. We'd go over sort of how much has changed since those early days, and also maybe just give some more background information on you know, what we're doing here at the Wellstead, who we are, anything like that. So this was a video that, like I said, I shot way back in 2024 and I never uploaded it, and to be honest it's because I was just rambling so much that I didn't know what to do in the edit, but I've recently put it together, just a quick edit just to throw it all together. And so here we are, let's react to the very first video ever shot at the Wellstead. Okay, here we go. I haven't seen this video in a long time. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of... You can already tell my hair was a lot shorter back then. It's been a long time since I've had a haircut. Whether it will stay that way is it's I'm sort of thinking the channel is going to evolve a bit, and of course if you're not evolving then you're not alive. So anyway, I'm not used to, you can probably tell I'm not really used to talking. I was just about to say that I remember in these early days being very, very hesitant to go on camera. I don't know why. I've always liked making films and I've always been quite a confident person, but I do remember being very, you know, it was just a very strange feeling having a camera in front of you and just being on your own and talking. I think that's something I've got better at, I don't know. So here in the south of England, well, Britain in general, we have a lot of invasive species. I think we have some of the lowest natural landscapes remaining in certainly Europe. I'm not sure about the whole world though. I can imagine we are probably quite up there. So what I'm trying to describe there is there's a statistic that says England and Britain as a whole is one of the most nature depleted countries in the whole world. I think we are number 4. So we are the 4th most nature depleted country in the whole world. And of course there's many factors for that. One is that Britain has, you know, been a quite a dominant country and an empire for a long time. Also, you know, the Industrial Revolution really kicked off in England, and since then Britain has just become a highly, highly industrialised country. There's been centuries of deforestation here, clear cutting places like our ancient woodlands and temperate rainforests in place of agriculture and non-native timber plantations. And then of course, as the population has increased over the 20th century until the 21st century, there's been massive urban sprawl. and a higher demand for, again, agriculture, timber, all these resources. And another factor is that because Britain is an island, islands can be sanctuaries for rare ecosystems, but they can also be incredibly vulnerable to invasive species, which is pretty much what's happened here in England. So during the Victorian period, there were plant fanciers and different explorers that would go out and collect rare and exotic plants from other countries, mainly like Asia and America, and they would bring them back, and those plants would become like status symbols in Victorian gardens. However, what they failed to recognise was that many of those plants become invasive when they enter our island ecosystem. And the same applies for animals like the grey squirrel, which was introduced from North America and outcompetes our native red squirrel, carries a deadly disease that affects the red squirrel but doesn't affect the grey squirrel. What I'm trying to describe here was that Britain is one of the most nature depleted countries in the world, and that we have very few native thriving native ecosystems left in the country. Most of our ancient woodlands are gone. Our temperate rainforests are on the brink of extinction. And so what I'm talking about here is our problem with rhododendrons here in the woodland, which are still here, but we are doing a great job at keeping on top of them now. And this area that I'm in this video has actually now been pretty much cleared. So already I can see a massive improvement from when I shot this. And it's because of the good old Victorians, as much as they contributed to the world we live in today, they were also quite pesky fellas as well. So they liked they liked bringing in plants from around the world as sort of decorative and status symbols. Eventually, those species which aren't considered native proliferated around the island until today. We have invasive species everywhere you look, in every city park and every roadside, every garden, and people aren't even really familiar with what an invasive species is and what it exactly means. I think that is a big problem, is lack of awareness, because since the Victorian times that's just become the status quo, you know. It's just normal to have different plants in your garden. So in England it's a real issue of people going to a garden centre and you have this wide selection of garden plants, but I'd say like 95% or more of those plants are non-native and often invasive species. But people just don't have the awareness, unfortunately, of the damage that those plants can do to our native ecosystems like this woodland, but then a lot of the time people fail to account for like seed dispersal, or for example rhododendrons and bamboo send out suckers, so like a long root that will pop up somewhere else that can travel underneath garden fences. And so over the last 100, 120 years, a lot of those invasive species that were originally confined to private gardens, arboretums and areas like that have since escaped and just completely overtaken our countryside. Progress that we're making here. So yeah, we're here in my family's 9 acres of ancient deciduous woodland in the south of Britain, and we've got a few projects in mind, but before we go on to any of that and before I can reveal any of that, the most important priority for the time being is just restoring the woodland to its natural homeostasis. So we'll talk about revealing the projects here, and this was something I was cautious to mention at first, but I think over time, as this channel has grown, I have been more open about it and our intentions with the land. So I've always said the #1 priority here at the Wellstead is restoring the woodland ecosystem to a more, just a healthy state. Removing the invasive species, reintroducing native species, and reforesting the areas that were cleared back in 2014. And that has always been the #1 priority here at the Wellstead. But when I describe the work we're doing here, I always break it up into 3 stages. So there's restoration, regeneration, and then I can't remember the third one. But essentially, restoration is that the phase we're in now, removing the invasive species and reintroducing any native species that can help the woodland bounce back. So the regeneration phase 2 is about just, you know, leaving the woodland to its own devices so that it can bounce back, and then you have that interplay between the biotic and abiotic components, you know, the animals and the plants, and hopefully just create this, you know, this self-sustaining ecosystem again. That's really the point of phase 2, is just to leave it be. But phase 3, and this is what I'm mentioning here, is the different projects we've got in mind. Phase 3 is that, you know, the intention for the Wellstead isn't just restoring the woodland. It's in the name. The Wellstead is a place for people to come to feel well. Like a homestead is a place where people go to feel at home, or, you know, where they go back home to. The Wellstead is going to be a place where people can come to reconnect with themselves and with Mother Nature. And so we've got, since this video, we've come up with several dozen more project ideas for what we can do here in our woodland. Most of them are, you know, eco-friendly, non-destructive ideas that bring people and nature closer together, whether that's in the form of, you know, like a forest school sort of thing, like a nature walk and talk, ecology classes, permaculture classes and courses. But the main idea is for this place to be a sanctuary of wellness, of well-being, hence the Wellstead name, where we can host things like, you know, meditation and yoga retreats, all sorts of things like that. It's an ever-developing idea and something I'm really looking forward to, and we're already building a network of people who can come together to make this happen. Like I've always said, the first and most important priority is not only restoring but protecting this woodland going forward. So we will never commit to any business or project idea that is going to disrupt the ecosystem in some way. But where there is potential for, like I said, an ecologically friendly and environmentally sustainable business idea or some sort of thing, then I think that's what we're going to hope to achieve here, because this is what the world is in need of these days, of small local businesses that are in line with nature, doing their best to protect nature, but also doing their best to give something back to their local communities, so that we can ensure that it is a healthy, functioning ecosystem before we then start to try to integrate our own activities into the woodland. Anyway, the point is that where I'm sat or squatting right now, I'm sort of in the heart of, I'm in the top corner of the woodland, but I'm in the heart of about 2 or 3 acres that are completely overtaken with rhododendrons. Now, like I said, a lot of you may be familiar with rhododendrons, but what you might not know is that the species that we get here in the UK are not native. Now, what does native mean? Who's to decide what that means? So, just quickly, there's a distinction between a native species and a naturalised species. I'm not completely familiar with the exact criteria that determines what a native species is, but it has to have existed or evolved in that environment for a long, long time. I think it's like over 6,000 years if you put a number to it. But there are also other factors to consider, like, you know, how does what niche does it feel in its respective habitat, things like that. But then there are also naturalised non-native species. So like the sycamore, for example, or horse chestnut, I believe, is another one. These are different species that have entered into the British Isles at some point in history, but it has existed there long enough to have, you know, filled a niche within that ecosystem and not cause any harm to the ecological balance of that environment. They're not necessarily native, but they're not invasive. They've naturalised in the environment. But rhododendrons, to my knowledge, are from Asia, Southeast Asia in particular. And they are beautiful, and certainly in April and May when they come into full bloom. Rhododendrons. Yeah, they're in full bloom now. I can actually see them just over there behind the camera. There's some beautiful, like, deep magenta flowers off there in the distance. They are a beautiful plant, I can see the appeal. But again, it's about protecting our native ecosystem. We just brought in last week, or the week before, and we need to get them down to our main project area. The first project that we're working on at the moment. That's the farm, the permaculture farm in the heart of the woods. Seeing the progress, and hopefully soon we'll actually get it going, so we're very nearly there. This is one of the last ingredients that we need to make the cake and reveal what this first project is. But basically, there is a path down there going this way. See here, there's this path going down, and if I just follow this along, so this whole area now is clear. That, while it is, for the most part, clear. Oh, there's a nice butterfly there. While it is, for the most part, clear, it's quite hilly and there's lots of different turns. You can see how dense the how dense the shade is in that area. That area is now completely open. I can see straight through to where I was stood just now, from where I'm sitting here. And yeah, it's amazing to see. I mean, they are still sort of cropping up, so you do need to keep on top of them. But this is the first main area of rhododendron removal, and it's been doing absolutely amazingly this season. And it comes out through the opening down there. And of course, this is all rhododendron in between. So you can just see through there, there is a little bit of a clearing, and that is where we've started to clear a new path, a more direct path down to the project site, which will just make transporting these sleepers much easier. So that's sort of the main task for today, is just to clear a wider path that will just take us, it will just cut out, it's only going to make a shortcut instead of walking around that way, coming around back there and then down there. It's just going to make it so much easier just to carve straight down here, and then it'll come through to the clearing that's down there anyway. This entire area that's full of rhododendrons here should be open woodland like this. Well, not quite like this, there's rhododendrons there, but I'll take some videos through there so you can see what I mean. So here we are, here's Badger Valley, and you can see the wildlife trail there, right where I placed this tree here on right at the screen now is where I placed the wildlife camera at the start of this year. Down there are all rhododendrons, and I believe even those very tall parts there, from here looks about 25 feet tall. They're very tall. They're rhododendrons too. Yeah, so at the time I didn't know the difference between rhododendron and cherry laurel. They're both equally as invasive. Cherry laurel, I believe, come from like the Mediterranean, whereas different types of rhododendron can be found from North America to Southeast Asia. They're just as invasive as each other, and oftentimes where you'll find one, you'll find the other. But rhododendrons they tend to grow in like a smaller, more clustered bush, you know, and they send their suckers out. Whereas cherry laurel are obviously quite tall trees, and in an environment like this, they tend to grow really tall, but not really spread out. In some other areas, I've seen very old cherry laurel that aren't that tall, but they've got very, very thick trunks. There's some more rhododendrons, and here's the main bulk here. If you carry on through this big part here, if you were to walk straight down through there, you'd be walking for about 200 metres through rhododendrons in this entire patch here, and this is the main issue. Yeah, and that's since spread as well. That has since started to sort of encroach on that area. We haven't really tackled that part yet, but you know, it's always going to get a little bit worse before it gets better, because things take time, and of course, the longer you leave it, the more the problem becomes. Figure out the right way to word this. Their effects on the local ecology outweigh any aesthetic, you know, appeal that they might have. That's true, yeah. So I think the main issue here is I'm talking about these things in a very black and white way, because, like I said, at the time I didn't have the education and the knowledge that I have now about these subjects. You give a label to something like an invasive species and it becomes this black and white thing. But the way I'm describing it, I don't think I really made my point very clearly, is that the ecological impact of an invasive species outweighs either, like I said, the aesthetic appeal of them, or any minute benefits they might have for a select few species by simply providing some very rudimentary habitat to those species. So that's one way to put it, but yeah, it's not always black and white when it comes to these things. Again, it's trying to prescribe a label to nature is very difficult, but I think I made my point a bit more clear this time. The point is that there is nothing inherently bad in nature, even predators, even viruses and plagues. They all have their place, and it's all part of the natural ebb and flow of what I call the living force. Now, if you're a fan of Star Wars, you'll get that reference.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his...
Happy May the 4th for Monday, everyone. I was going to do a video down here. I'm a massive, massive Star Wars fan, by the way. I've mentioned that before on the channel. It seems to always creep into my videos somewhere. Oh, I understand that I am rambling a lot where I should really be working, so I'm going to sort of try to work as I talk. But let's just talk about what it actually means for a species to be an invasive species. What does that mean? Because we hear a lot nowadays about trying to increase biodiversity, especially in this country where biodiversity is at an all-time low. So you can have a variety of different species in a landscape, but whether they work together or not determines whether it's a functional ecosystem. Now, biodiversity, in a concise definition, means that there's a variety of species that all belong in the same ecosystem, and therefore when they exist, by belong in the same ecosystem, I mean that they have evolved together and that they have these different interdependencies between one another. You know, they have these different symbiotic or mutualistic relationships of some kind. And the point I'm trying to make here is that, you know, a natural ecosystem isn't just like a zoo or an arboretum where you have different exhibits of species. We can't simply introduce more species into an area and say that that's increasing the biodiversity, because it's about recognizing the interconnectedness and the intelligence of the natural world, and knowing that every decision that you make is going to have a knock-on effect because of the way that those species interact with one another and also with their environment. Together they coexist, they work together to create a harmonious ecosystem, right? Does that make sense? So biovarieties, you can have as many species as you want, like an arboretum, right? Or like a public park, where you've got all these different plants and they all look very lovely, but they're not communicating, they don't work together. Biodiversity refers to when there are lots of different species that are working harmoniously together in an ecosystem. And so the way I like to think of it is, if you think of like a concert, like an orchestra, and say I'm not a musician, so yet again, I'm a bit useless on these videos, aren't I? I'm just pretending I know everything, I don't know anything. But, oh, there's a bit of deadwood here. But if you think of like an orchestra, and they're all playing a certain melody and a certain tune, and then comes, I don't know, a bass instrument, don't critique me on my music knowledge, okay? And it plays the same melody and it's... I still use this analogy to this day, so the point I'm trying to make is that you can sort of think of a woodland or just a natural environment, an ecosystem, as like an orchestra or a choir or something. And to produce good music, you ideally want every vocalist or every instrumentalist in that choir or that orchestra to be playing the same melody to the same tune, right? And if everyone is in tune, then you get this beautiful harmony of sound and you produce music, right? Art. But if at least one of those instruments is out of tune, let's say, or playing to a different note, it can disrupt the whole thing. So let's say you have a choir of 100 singers or an orchestra of 100 musicians, and 99 of them are playing the correct melody to the correct tone, and even just one person out of tune, you'll be able to hear it and it'll throw off the whole harmony, you know? And that's an analogy I came up with for this video, and I still use it to this day when thinking about how to describe, you know, the necessity for removing invasive species in an environment like this, because you know, even one invasive species, like whether it's rhododendron, cherry laurel, or bamboo, or Himalayan balsam, or grey squirrels, or in our case, a mix of all of those, their presence can disrupt the natural cycles that help that ecosystem function and help the various native species in that environment survive. And so it's like that one out of tune player or singer, and it just throws off the balance of the whole. That's sort of how I approach thinking about things like rhododendrons. They just don't belong in the ecosystem, and that's why they're considered invasive. Again, I wasn't very careful with my wording back then. It's not that they don't belong in the ecosystem, because you start thinking like that, and I've seen some people online with some questionable worldviews by applying the concept of like invasive species to political topics for like I'm sure you can infer what I mean by that, and it's just, I think it's a disgusting way to look at the world. But anyway, this isn't a political video. What I'm talking about is just being more careful with how I'm wording it. It's not that the rhododendrons don't belong in the ecosystem, it's just that they didn't evolve there, and therefore they haven't formed those same interdependent relationships with the other species around them. So let's just let's start by just chopping this little part here. So you can see at this stage we were still using mostly hand tools, because I hadn't yet learned how to use a chainsaw. Still weren't really clear on our, the roadmap of the restoration work that needed doing here. So a lot of the time it was just coming down with some hand saws and maybe an old axe or a hatchet and just doing some bushwhacking. And it's only really in the last year since we started this YouTube channel that we've had a clearer, a line to follow for the work that we're doing. If you're hoping to learn safety from these videos, go elsewhere. Anyway, there's a nice big part come off there. What's growing on them? Ah, there's certainly some big spiders though. Get off. I really do not like spiders. Ah, there's one of my gloves. Yeah. They're only the little bony ones. It's just, like I said, I wasn't really used to working outdoors back then. I've just gotten used to all sorts of creepy crawlies now. So this is a clip that has made it into some videos in the past. That axe that I'm using there is the old Slim Jim. This was long before it broke. I can't remember when it broke actually. I think it was the start of last year or winter of this year, 2024. That's not how you cut down a tree, by the way. You can see it barber chaired, but luckily it was only a short rhododendron. But there you go, you can see the old Slim Jim before I restored it last year. My camera died, so I didn't get to finish saying what I was saying, but I said too much anyway. There'll be plenty more videos where I get to ramble on. But for now, that's the last rhododendron that needed to come down. So we've cleared the path. We're going to start moving these timbers through to the main area. Cool, and there we go. There's a new path opened up at the Wellstead, and like I said, that whole area now, you can see up at the top where it's all green, that is just clear now. And we've even had some bluebells come through there this year, so it's been an amazing transformation. All of that on the right hand side of the video there. Yeah, that's all clear. That oak tree there is now exposed. There are still some that are regrowing, but we've controlled that confined square now, and it's just everything on the left hand side now. So from here, from that back view, that left hand side is now just gone. This video informative. Leave a comment if I got anything wrong or if you disagree with anything I said. And so, even from that last part there, that left hand side is now mostly clear. We've cleared the cherry laurel back by about 20 feet, I'd say, but left sort of a wall there so that we've cleared them, but we're not exposing the ground to too much light too suddenly, because another factor you've got to consider with, especially when it comes down to invasive species removal, is the potential for light shock, which is where too much light hits the forest floor too quickly, that any native plants that are dormant in the soil don't have the stored energy in their root systems to then germinate and take advantage of that new light, whereas other invasive species or even native opportunists, like here in England it's mainly bracken and brambles and English ivy as well. They're native plants, but they're opportunists, so where the right conditions open up for them, they will just dominate that area. And although they're native, you have the same issue all over again of a complete lack of diversity of flora on the forest floor. We'll have a more connected landscape, not only for us to be able to walk through, but for the entire ecology of the woodland to thrive. Yeah, and another thing that's beautiful I forgot to mention is in that area, since we've cleared the rhododendrons earlier this year, in like maybe late January and February, I started noticing lots of little digging holes around there from badgers. Now badgers do something, I can't remember what it's called, but they do something where I think they bury their poo to mark their territory. I could be wrong, but I think that's what they do. Or they could also be searching for, you know, a new suitable area to burrow into for their badger, for their little holes. But that's also an amazing thing to see as well, is how since we've cleared that area, wildlife have actually started to be able to use the area again for their different behaviours. So yeah, thank you for watching. Still sort of learning what I want these videos to be, how long I want them to be, how I want them to feel, what I want to say. So keep watching, and who knows, maybe one day we'll grow. So that was the end of the first video. You can see I was rambling a lot. I'm still rambling a lot now. Yeah, looking back at this video, it's really cool to see, you know, just in a year and a half. Well, not even that, because it was mostly last year that we were working on this. So in just a year, the amazing potential for regeneration in such a small area of woodland, and it's still like, it's not like a clearing where you're getting all these wildflowers come through. It's still in the closed canopy part of the woodland, but there are so many bluebells, and earlier this year we had daffodils. We've got some dandelions over there now. We had primrose and wood anemone, which have just gone away in the last few weeks. Yeah, it's been absolutely amazing to see, and it's really cool to look back at this 2 years ago now, or close to 2 years ago, and see how far the woodland has bounced back, and also how far we've come as a YouTube channel as well. This next video is a little bit different, because this was shot without a plan. Well, this first one sort of was as well, and it was shot down in the farm. But it's cool to see, you know, the farm area has been our main area of work, mainly as the sort of base camp for the rest of our work. So let's have a watch of this second video here, and again see what else we can notice in terms of what has changed and how we've grown as well. So you can see there, those posts there on the right in the background are marking the corners for where the greenhouse would eventually sit, and it has been set there ever since. 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, and obviously it's sort of, well, we're past the height of summer now. It's the 20th of August today, I think, and obviously I don't mind new plant growth. In fact, it is beautiful. There's so much vibrant plant. Some young bracken coming through there. Little, just like, again, bracken is another, like I mentioned earlier, bracken is an opportunist species, so it's native here, and it's one of Britain's ferns, native fern species. And in most cases, an abundance of ferns is indicative of a healthy ancient woodland, or even a temperate rainforest as well. You know, if you have a nice abundance of different ferns growing. But bracken is one of those opportunist species where, given the right conditions, it will dominate an area. Obviously not completely ideal in this environment, because we are in a woodland. Although there are some tall pine trees around me, this is mainly an ancient deciduous woodland, so when you have a clearing like this, obviously you're going to expect lots of, as you can see, ferns and flowers and all sorts coming through. This is our first project, and the first one I'm going to show, because we've got a few others going on there, nowhere near ready to start yet. But yeah, so like I said earlier, we're still in the planning phase for most of those. The main thing is the farm, the permaculture farm, and the restoration of the woodland. The permaculture farm is something that hasn't progressed as quickly as we wanted it to, because again, like I said, the priority is making sure that nothing we do interferes or damages the natural cycles of the woodland. You know, if you can take advantage of it in a way that is going to benefit, again, yourself, your local community, and your local wildlife, then I personally don't see any reason why you shouldn't do. And a permaculture farm is like the epitome of how to do that in a sustainable way. Now you can see here, this is a pretty big problem around here. We are next to a village, so we do get a lot of sort of bounty wrapper. For the record, I absolutely hate bounty. Okay, I love coconut, but something about coconut flavoured things. Is it desiccated coconut or something? Is when it's been cut, it's been like shaved and refined to be a flavouring. I hate the stuff, cannot stand it. But coconut on its own, or coconut milk, beautiful, any day. But bounty, no, sorry. Sorry everyone, sorry if that's a controversial opinion there, but I hate bounty. Stray litter that comes around. I mean, some of it could have been here for years. So it's an old bounty wrapper. For the record, I absolutely hate bounty. And I didn't know I said that in the video. That's so funny. I've just had the same rant here 2 years later. Because of bounty. But coconut is delicious, so if you don't like bounty and you've never tried coconut, then don't be too harsh on coconuts. That's today's life lesson. Oh, that is so funny. I literally didn't know I had the same rant, the same tone of voice about it as well. Yeah, that is funny. There we are at the bottom of the stairs. I think that's called a male fern, I believe. About 5 feet in diameter, maybe. This is, I don't know if you can see down there, but it all comes from the same sort of shoot. And yeah, so this is what I was just putting it down there, because as beautiful as
yeah, so here I'm getting a little bit confused, because I'm talking about a male fern here. I believe it's a male fern. And you can see the size of it. That's still growing down there. It's just coming back to life this spring. Beautiful plant, and I believe, you know, I could be getting my facts wrong here as well, but I believe it's a native woodland fern here in the UK, and where it grows to that sort of size, you know, it's a good sign for the soil health. But I'm getting confused here because I'm mixing it up with the bracken, so I've just been pulling out all the bracken in this video here, and then I think that this is, I'm clearly mistaking this for the same plant. And there we are, you can see the clearing there. That tree there, those ash trees are all dead now. So in the last 2 years, the ash dieback disease has dominated those. It's completely killed those. But there you go, you can see the farm there and the bracken all around it. And our staircase, which is now finished, well, except for the handrail. That'll be done one day, don't worry.
Learning how to be a vlogger is not.
Don't worry, I still am.
But I had it, so. I am a photographer, but I'm struggling to currently put my camera on my tripod. So yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you what that plant will eventually become, or would have, had I not ripped it out from its life force. It is beautiful though. It's a really beautiful fern.
Okay, cool. So, whew, that was both of the videos that I shot back then in 2024. And isn't it just amazing to see how far we've come as a channel, and also the, you know, the physical work that we've achieved here on the land. But yeah, what an amazing journey it's been so far on this, for this first year on YouTube. You know, we've built an incredible community here already. I'm very proud of the community that we've built, who, you know, everyone who engages with every video, every post, everyone who joined our first live stream a couple of weeks ago. Thank you to everyone who was there, and to everyone over on Instagram who dropped a question in to answer for the live stream as well. Thank you to everyone who has shared our videos or commented with your own advice, experience or knowledge. It's all been a massive help, and every day I'm amazed and surprised by, you know, the generosity of you guys and how much you want to share your own life experiences and your own knowledge here with myself and with everyone else in the Wellstead community that we're building. As we continue, you know, we're getting the woods to a safer state to work in now. It means pretty soon we can think about hosting volunteer days down here. That's something that we've discussed since the dawn of the channel. That's something a lot of you guys have asked about in comments on our videos, in our community page and on our Instagram as well. A lot of you have asked about volunteer days. That is something that is coming up, definitely. From myself and from everyone else here behind the scenes at the Wellstead, we want to thank you so much for the support you've given us and how you've all helped this channel grow. I cannot wait to reach the next milestone of 1,000 subscribers. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed already, hit subscribe, or if you know anyone else who might enjoy the content that we make here and the work that we're doing here at the Wellstead, then go ahead and share our channel with them, because once we hit 1,000 subscribers, another door opens up to us for possibilities of the work that we can do here and how much time we can dedicate to the work here as well. So again, thank you so much for all of the support that all of you guys have shown us in our first year here on YouTube. And here is to another year at the Wellstead. If you like this video, go ahead and click like. If you're not already, subscribe. Again, I want to wish Sir David Attenborough a very, very happy 100th birthday today. And I will see you guys soon for our next episode at the Wellstead.